Meeting of the Tennessee Real Estate Commission underway. At this time, I'd ask Kayla Maxwell, our Executive Director, to read the public disclaimer into the record and then call the roll.
Okay. Notice of the February 8th meeting of the Real Estate Commission, including date, time, and location, has been noticed on the Tennessee Real Estate website since October 19th, 2021. Additionally, this month's agenda has been posted on the website since Friday, February 4th, 2022. Now for the roll. Commissioner Joe Begley.
Here.
Commissioner Jeff Diaz. Commissioner DJ Ferris. Commissioner Marcia Franks.
Here.
Commissioner Steve Gwynn. Commissioner John Moffitt. Commissioner Joan Smith. Commissioner Stacy Torbett.
Here.
Chairman John Grease.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. At this point, if you all will stand, well, not stand yet, but I'm going to ask Commissioner Torbett to lead us in an invocation, and following the invocation, if you'll stand, we'll pledge to the flag. Ms. Torbett.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I thank you for those of us who are here, for health and safe travels, and be with those who are not here today as they're traveling or dealing with hardship. I ask that you give us wisdom and discernment in the decisions that we make today. Lead, guide, and direct us in our words and actions so that we can honor you in all that we say and do.
And please stand.
Flag. United States.
So happy to know that.
I got kind of cracked up.
All right. Next up is to approve the agenda. That has been emailed to all members of the commission. Is there a motion? A motion by Ms. Smith, second by Mr. Begley, that the agenda be approved. I have one amendment I would like to make. Yesterday, Ms. Matlock sent us 3 cases to be added to the consent or to the legal report. And if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to number those cases 42, 43, and 44. Any objection to that? Then without objection.
I want to.
Yes.
I'd also like to add under commission discussion the Arello meetings for 2022, please.
Objection? I don't think so.
And I would just note, we had a waiver request on the original agenda that was sent out with the hopes that we would get all the documentation we needed to present that in time, and we didn't get that, so that will not be presented today.
And Matlock, are we going to discuss that recovery fund topic today?
It's my understanding that Mr. Thomas was planning on being here today, but I'm not exactly 100% sure. So if he is,
We don't have it on the agenda at this point.
okay.
Should we go ahead and put it on, take it off if we need to?
If you put it under, is it okay if we put it under commission discussion?
Sure, we can put it wherever you like. I didn't just know whether or not we should
Yes.
anticipate that.
I think he's coming today.
We have one more addition.
Yes, Ms. Maxwell.
We are going to give a small legislative update, just kind of about some of the bills that are coming through.
Commission discussion?
That sounds good.
Okay. Anything else? All right, with those additions and amendments, are you ready to vote? Since you are, those in favor of the motion to adopt today's agenda, please vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no, and that motion passes unanimously. Next up is to approve the minutes for January 12th meeting. Is there a motion? Ms. Torbett makes a motion to approve. Mr. Ferris seconds that motion to approve the minutes as they were presented to us. let's vote. Those in favor of the motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no, and that motion passes unanimously.
I abstained since
Miss,
I wasn't here. Franks.
I was going to call you Marcia, but I wanted to try to be formal about this. Commissioner Franks abstains. All right, next up is an informal appearance with somebody we know only as candidate A at this point, Ms. Maxwell.
Okay, we have candidate Grace Garrett. Miss Garrett, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so before you have applicant Grace Garrett and her principal broker, Lorraine Hanson. Ms. Garrett has taken the Tennessee Real Estate Affiliate Broker exam. A summary of the criminal and disciplinary sanction is larceny, and I believe it should be petty theft. A statement and a letter of recommendation can be found in your packet.
Okay, Miss Garrett, I don't know which one is Miss Garrett. Would you
That's
put your
me.
hand up? Okay, so you're in the white sweater.
Yes, sir.
Or Garrett's son.
Garrett's son, is that right? I don't have mine.
Garrett's son's what's written down.
Garrettson, yes.
Garrettson, okay. So here's how we operate this little portion of our agenda. In a moment, we'll let you tell us what got you here, what happened, why it happened, what you'd like for us to know about it, what you've been doing since that event, why you'd like to get into real estate, anything you would like to tell this commission that you think would be helpful to us as we try to make a decision. Following your presentation, and I use that term loosely, it doesn't need to be formal, we just need to know what you'd like for us to hear. Commission will ask you questions if they have questions to ask. And following that portion, we'll go to the broker, potential broker, and ask Ms. Hanson why she'd be interested in having you affiliated with her company and what she knows about you. And then again, we'll reserve the right to ask Ms. Hanson questions, and eventually we'll get around to a motion from somebody that will say, let's let Ms. Garrettson go on with her license, or I don't think we want to do it at this time. So, with all that said, Ms. Garrettson, would you give us what you would like for us to know?
I certainly will. Thank you for letting me have the floor. Let's see. My name is Grace Garrettson, and I was born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi. If you fast forward till I'm about 22, 23, I started bartending and kind of was hanging out with the wrong crowd and, fell in love, that sort of thing. And so anyway, with that being said, my ex-boyfriend, I was driving his car and I got pulled over, and there was some drugs in the car that were his. I'm so sorry. I couldn't.
Oh,
You ask a
you're
question?
fine. Go right ahead.
Oh, okay. Yes, and so those I got charged with that, and I was still being young and dumb. He asked me to pawn some stuff for him, and I did. I pawned some stuff, and they were actually belonged to his father, which I was unaware. And so that is where the petty larceny comes in. So that was kind of a wake-up call in my life. I needed to kind of turn things around, and so I actually ended up moving to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Went back to school at MTSU and got my accounting degree, and graduated. And so I've been working at HCA Healthcare Company for about 3.5 years since I graduated, and then I just recently changed. I got promoted to got a new job at Spring Automation, and I've been there since October, managing their books and doing, their daily things as necessary. But I mean, my life is so different from how it was in the past, and I mean I'm embarrassed that it is my past, but it's part of my past, and it's made me into who I am today. But that's not who I am anymore. I've changed significantly. I mean, I'm a good, upstanding citizen. I have a regular job every day. I volunteer, and I just that's just not who I am anymore. think I'll open it up to see if anybody has any questions. I hope that wasn't too terribly long.
We'd much rather you be too short than too long. All right, commissioners, questions for Ms. Gerritsen, Ms. Franks.
Good morning, Ms. Gerritsen. I didn't understand where you said that you've been working right now.
Oh, sorry. I work at Spring Automation. It is an engineering, they do logistics for warehouses, and it's in Berry Hill.
Okay. So how many years ago was this that this happened?
This was in 2014.
Okay. What has made you interested in real estate?
Well, I'll be honest, it's my mom. She has really taken off in real estate, and every time I hear her talking about it, she's been doing it for about four years now, but I'm just so intrigued, and I help her with her open houses. Sometimes I'll go and sit with her and just watch what she's doing, and it's just really, she's really inspired me to join the industry.
So is this something that you're going to do full time, or will it be part time and keep your accounting job?
I would like to turn it into full time. I love accounting, but accounting is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so I want to start out part time, and then I'm hoping within a year I can transition to full time.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Other commissioners? All right, Ms. Hanson, thank you for joining us today. Tell us what you know about this applicant and why you'd be interested in having her with your firm.
I met Grace several years ago. I actually go by Gabrielle Hanson. Lorraine's my first name, obviously, for my license. But I met Grace a few years ago through her mother, who transferred from Parks in Franklin to my firm. And I'm going to tell you, until all this happened, I would never, ever have thought that Grace had anything other than a flawless, perfect, idyllic background of living in a great home with two great parents, going to the perfect school, going to church, working, being responsible. And it was very surprising to me, and I can truly testify that she is definitely nothing like what I read on paper had occurred to her in the past. And I think all of us can relate with our younger selves and decisions that we made that were probably not appropriate, but we're young and dumb and we think we know it all, and then we get in over our heads. But I can truly tell you that the Grace I've known for about 3 years is nothing like that other young lady. And clearly, HCA, who hired her, must have thought that she was exemplary as well. And only did she leave HCA to go to Spring Automation because of a promotion. So that does speak very well of her, and I feel like she will be a good fit for the real estate industry, and I feel like her mother and she could make a dynamic team. I have no issues that Grace would be an honor and prestigious addition to our real estate community.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions? We will call you Gabrielle from now on, not Lorraine.
Yeah.
You're welcome. All right. With that said, if there is no other question, if there are no other questions, Ms. Franks would like to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Ms. Gerritsen to get her license.
Ms. Torbett seconded that motion. Mr. Ferris came in third. Discussion? All right, Ms. Gerritsen, it'll take 4 votes out of 6 here to get this to keep moving forward for you. I think we're going to do this on a voice vote. If you're in favor of the motion offered by Ms. Franks to allow Ms. Gerritsen to proceed to get a real estate license, please vote aye.
Aye.
If you're opposed, vote no. The chair rules it was unanimous. You're through with us, but I hope you have a great future in real estate. And I sense that you're with a pretty dang good broker, too. Make her proud.
I am. Yes. Thank you all so very much. I greatly appreciate your time and your decision.
Good luck.
And you're welcome to stay and watch the rest of the meeting if you'd like to, or you might want to get back to work, one of those two things.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great rest of your day.
You as well. Thanks. All right. Education Director's Report. Mr. White.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members. We'll move right along with this, and good morning to everyone. I call your attention to the Real Estate Commission Education Agenda 2022. I have reviewed all of these, some new providers and old providers, their courses and their instructors, and I present them to you today for approval. That would be F1 through F26.
All right, you've heard the report from the Education Director. Is there a motion to adopt his recommendation and approve courses F1 through F26?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Franks, seconded by Mr. Begley. Discussion. Let's vote. Those in favor of that motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no, and the motion passes unanimously. Next up, you have one instructor for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's correct. One instructor that needs approval for today for the new Anchor Agent School.
Is that Miss Captain or is it Farrah?
It is Captain, yeah,
Okay.
Farrah Captain.
Okay. You all have been provided some background information about Miss Captain. Any questions for the Education Director?
Move to approve.
Motion by Ms. Franks, seconded by Ms. Smith, that Ms. Captain be approved per the Education Director's recommendation. Those in favor of the motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no, and that motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ross.
Thank you,
Anything
Mr.
else?
Chairman.
Anything else education-wise?
For today, hope everybody has a great day.
Thanks, my friend. Next up is a broker presentation, a continuing education broker presentation. Marcia Mann. We don't know who Marcia Mann is, what she does. I'm sure that's her, but give us a little background before she gets that.
So this might be a little foggy, but we, over the last couple years, have been working with CE Broker in an attempt to, it started as an attempt to allow education providers more options to upload their courses and really allow them to do it rather than right now they email them to us, we have to send them to our IT department, then they upload it, and so there's a lot of back and forth, especially if there's any issue with the, we call them rosters, and so this is how it started, but as you'll see, CE Broker offers a lot of other opportunities for licensees and providers. And so Marcia is going to kind of go over the benefits of CE Broker. But one thing that I know I'm particularly excited about is the option for all of our education providers. CE Broker allows multiple different platforms for them to upload courses. So let's just say you take a course, that provider then can manually automatically upload you or upload proof that you took the course. They can take the roster and upload it all at once and immediately know if there's errors. Basically, it takes out a lot of the back and forth and the middle. It's going to take out us and our IT department, so it'll be direct. Another benefit is a lot of times we have issues where the licensee calls us and they say, I've taken my education and TREC doesn't have it. Well, a provider has 10 days essentially to submit the education to us. So it's going to put a little bit more of a burden on the provider to upload quickly. And in CE Broker, there will be little, I'm not going to say the right word, but there's little badges that show that a provider is quick to submit your CE. So as a licensee, you can go in and you can say, okay, I'm only a couple days out from expiration. I need to go with a provider that's going to upload my education quickly. And so they get badges for uploading within the same day or within 24 hours of you taking the course. So I'll let Marcia, explain fully. But we think it's going to be great for our education providers, and then also it's going to allow some different options for licensees as well.
Thank you, Caitlin. Marcia, so I got to start off pretty basic. What is CE Broker? A platform, a company, a description of what you do? What is CE Broker?
Broker is a continuing education tracking system.
Is
So it is a company, yes.
Not state. It's not part of the state.
No, sir. We're a private company.
You're a for-profit company.
Yes.
Okay, and you're trying to sell this to the state, is that the right way to say it? I'm just
So actually, there's no cost to the state, and it's no cost to the licensee either. But there are options. Correct me if I'm wrong, Marcia, but options for licensees and providers if they want to upgrade their account that can allow for additional notice. So maybe you're somebody that forgets to do your education. If you upgrade your account, it allows for additional reminders, that sort of thing. But on a basic level, there's no cost.
That's one more question and shut up. Is this for every department in the Department of Commerce and Insurance, or just real estate?
So slowly they're adding all of the divisions that use CE, but we are the group that started this quest because when I started as director, a couple providers reached out to me and said, Georgia is so great. They allow us to log into their system and upload the education directly. Well, that's not how our system currently works. And so we put it out for bid. And so what we wanted, and multiple companies bid on it, and CE Broker was the best fit.
That's what I needed. That's how we got here. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Vann. Sorry for those questions. I just have to have a starting point in my mind.
And I don't know if the speak button will stay, or do I have to keep pushing it? Okay.
But stay close to it.
Okay.
It lights up red. That's how
As
you
long
know.
as-
Right. It just kept going off, so I was like, do I have to keep pushing it?
As long as this part stays red at the top, you're good.
Okay, cool. So as Caitlin said, my name is Marcia Mann, and it's so interesting to
Spell
see
it
someone.
right,
I
too.
spell it right too. Yeah, I'm like, look, is that the same name as me? And I am from CE Broker. We're located in Jacksonville, Florida. I am the Senior Client Success Manager, and I already was working with the Tennessee Department of Health when Tennessee Real Estate, DCI, decided that they also would like to use CE Broker. So I'm just going to go through a little bit about what we do, why we do it, how we work. Some of the things aren't going to be as applicable for real estate just because of the provider application flow, but I kind of just wanted to show you an overview. And if you have any questions, feel free to stop me at any time.
I was going to, just so they know, because I know Marcia's very active in Arillo, there's multiple other real estate commissions that already use this. I believe South Carolina, Florida. So you guys, we're not the first real estate commission.
No, you're not. So just a little bit about our background. CE Broker started in 2003 in Florida. So we track continuing education currently for the Florida Department of Health, and this was a no-cost contract with them as well. And of course, we've grown since then. So this is just a little bit about why, how, what. CE compliance, I mean, let's face it, most people don't look up their classes in the morning and say, oh, look, good, I get to take this CE today. It's not something that anybody just loves to do. It's required, but we want to make it a platform that makes it easy for licensed professionals to find their continuing education hours, to find educational providers, allow a platform where educational providers have an easy way to upload their courses into CE Broker. We provide a platform for educational providers, for regulating entities, for licensed professionals. And you'll have to forgive me, every now and then I might throw health out there because we did health for so long. But now we track for any profession that requires continuing education. So our platform is based on our CE compliance engine. And like I said, we have 3 levels. We have the licensee suite, we have the provider suite, and we have the board suite. And all of that is driven by our compliance engine and our platform. So we work with health professionals, we work with real estate professionals, we work with funeral home directors, geologists. So any profession that requires continuing education, we can track for that. As far as educational providers are concerned, we have a very robust platform. that allows educational providers to put their courses in CE Broker. If the board functions that way, those courses can route to board staff for approval through CE Broker, and then those educational providers have a free platform to advertise their courses to licensed professionals and report course completions. And then for the board staff, Caitlin and her team or whoever is going to have access to that will be able to go online at any time, look at any educational providers' rosters, look at any licensed professionals' CE transcript to see where they are as far as meeting their requirements. Audit, everything can be done in Board Suite. It doesn't have to be paper back and forth anymore between licensed professionals and educational providers. We were founded in 2003. Currently, we are tracking for 3 million licensed professionals. We have probably more than 20,000 educational providers using our service right now, and over 130 boards. And as Caitlin said, it is a no-cost contract. So we don't charge any of our partners, our clients, a fee to use CE Broker. Licensed professionals have the ability to use CE Broker for free as well. We do have upgraded subscriptions that I'll talk about in a little bit, but I just wanted to touch on that at the beginning. This map shows where our current board partnerships are. Of course, not every state has real estate tracking for us. South Carolina, Tennessee, we're actually doing a demo this week for Texas Real Estate Commission. So real estate is starting to really take off, which is good. I mean, you guys have specific CE that you need as well. So this is just a map of where we are, and hopefully in the next 5 years that map will be all blue. That's our goal. So just as I said, CE Broker benefits regulating entities, educational providers, licensed professionals. I kind of already went over this one, so I don't want to waste your time on that slide. First, I want to talk about Board Suite. So as I said, any board staff member will have access to a secure portal where they can perform continuing education audits. If the board works this way, they can have educational provider applications flow through CE Broker so they can approve everything through our platform. They can communicate back and forth with the providers. If they're doing an audit of a licensee, they can communicate back and forth with that licensed professional, and each board user will have their own login and password where they can view all of this information, run all kinds of reports that can be very helpful. This piece is not applicable to real estate just because you guys are going to still continue to use your current provider approval process, but it is something that's built into our system. So we can set it up in the future if you decided to do that. We could set it up so that the providers would actually enter their courses in CE Broker, submit all of their documentation through CE Broker's platform. That information would route to applicable board staff, and they would just review everything through CE Broker. This is something that is available for any of our regulating boards. It's just not something that real estate has chosen to do at this time, but it is something that is available. As far as audits are concerned, Caitlin, I don't know if you've gone into how you're going to do that, but we have two ways that board staff can audit through CE Broker. One is your standard post-renewal audit where you pick, your percentage of people after the fact, and then you send them an audit notice and they send you proof that they did all of their continuing education. And the other is compliance at renewal, which my understanding is this is what real estate is moving towards. So when a licensed professional attempts to renew online in y'all's renewal system, the licensing database is going to query CE Broker to see if that professional has all of their CE hours reported. If they have been reported and it says yes, complete, then the licensee will be able to continue on with renewal. If the status reflects non-complete, not complete, or in progress, then they're going to be stopped from renewal. I haven't looked at how y'all have built it out. So.
Yeah, we call it a soft stop because they will be able to pay for their renewal, but the actual license will not renew until that checklist item has been complied with. And I was just going to add, there's some great options within CE Broker that I think you and I touched briefly on. We won't probably use the audit after renewal option, but there is potentially a way to use it before renewal. That's very easy for me and our staff to look at who's expiring in the next 90 days and send them a quick email to say, you're either currently complying or you're not currently complying. So there's a lot of different options within CE Broker that I think we could really utilize to better serve our licensees, to make sure that they renew on time without actually, touching every single person and license.
And that's one thing that we can do. We have email communications because we're going to get the email addresses. So we can send out email reminders to licensees as their expiration date is approaching and tell them, hey, this is a reminder, your renewal is coming up. You haven't met all of your continuing education requirements. But as Caitlin said, there's also compliance reports that can be run in CE Broker. So she could run a compliance report to see who's renewing in the next 90 days, and it would tell her who's complete and who's not complete. So it's a really easy way to stay on top of it. And then this is just the little information about the post-renewal audit, which we all know how that works. So I'm not going to go over that one because y'all aren't going to use that one. As far as educational providers are concerned, we will be receiving that information directly from Real Estate Commission's system. So educational providers won't have to create an account in CE Broker. They won't have to upload their courses in CE Broker. All that's going to be downloaded into our system, and all those educational providers will get a notification letting them know, hey, here's your account, here's how you log in and look at it. But what they will be doing in CE Broker is they will be able to advertise their courses in our free course search, and they will also be reporting course completions for any of the real estate licensees that take their continuing education. So as far as adding their courses to our library, as I said, we have a free course search that's available to any educational provider. We also have a learning management system that educational providers can choose to take advantage of if they wish to do that. But advertising in our course search is totally free, makes it really easy for licensees to find the CE that they need to meet their remaining educational requirements. And any provider that they are seeing in CE Broker, they know that's a provider that's been approved by the Real Estate Commission and is going to report their hours for them. There's a few reporting options. Educational providers can report using an Excel file. They can report using XML. They can even set up a business-to-business web service, depending on how big they are, what their tech capabilities are. If they only have like 5 people maybe that attended a course, they can log right into CE Broker and just put them in one by one. Just depends on what their needs are. The licensees for real estate will not have the ability to self-report continuing education since the providers are going to be required, but we can set it up so licensees can self-report as well. This is a view of the transcript and the course search information. So they'll see their transcript. It'll show them how many hours are required, how many hours they've completed. It will break it down by CE cycle. So it makes it really easy for them to know this is how many hours I need and this is the subject area I need. And then there's links right on their transcript that will take them to courses in case they need specific continuing education courses. They can do everything from within their transcript. If they choose to just use our basic account, they'll have a course history that will tell them exactly what's been posted. It will tell them what they've completed, what they haven't completed. And again, they can use that course search to find any continuing education hours that they might need. We have 3 different account options for licensed professionals. The free basic account gives them the ability to search for courses. They'll get renewal notifications that will show them what their compliance status is. They can track more than one license. So if they're licensed in Tennessee and in South Carolina, they could track both of their licenses in one spot. And again, that's a free account available to anybody, anytime. And then we also have a couple of upgraded accounts. We have a professional account that's $29 a year that includes the compliance transcript that breaks down for them exactly what their requirements are for each license cycle. So it makes it really easy to tell at a glance what they still need. And then we have our concierge account, which is $99 a year, and it includes everything plus an account manager that can do everything for them but take the CE. The concierge account is really popular with people that have multiple licenses, complicated CE requirements. We see doctors and pharmacists and people like that use it a lot just because it's simpler to have someone else take care of it for them. But it's $99 a year. You know, it's not as highly used as our other accounts. We do have a support center. I need to update this slide. We're not actually, our CE experts are all over the United States now, not just in Jacksonville. But we are available Monday through Friday from 8 to 8 Eastern time. Phone support, chat support, email support. We have really robust FAQs. So we're available to answer questions for the licensees, the educational providers. People like Caitlin will just call me, but any of those people would be able to access our support center and ask any questions that they have. And then we have free mobile apps. No matter what type of account the professional has, whether it's a free account or an upgraded account, they can download our app. We have it for Android and Apple, where they can take pictures of their certificates. If they want to, you know, keep them connected to their information in CE Broker, they can track their CE status wherever they are. They can search for courses. So everything you can do at your computer, you can do from your phone. We have an API that's being built. So y'all's system will communicate directly with our licensing database. We will get licensee files, I think it's weekly, might be daily. So anytime there's an update, somebody renews their license, somebody changes their license status, a new license is issued, we'll get that information in CE Broker so that person can quickly register for their free account and educational providers can start reporting for them. And these are just some of the licensing platforms that we work with. So we can communicate with pretty much anybody. Sorry, that wasn't the right word, but it just did not come to me. And that is really the end of what CE Broker is and how we're going to work with real estate. So if you guys have any questions for me.
I've got a couple questions, but Marcia, you have some as well? Okay, why don't you go first?
Okay. So there's a contract involved. Is that contract with the state and Commerce and Insurance, or who is that contract between?
It's with DCI. Yes, ma'am.
Commerce and Insurance. Yes.
Okay. Now, so what's the difference in, like right now, I can go to License Inquiry and look up how many classes I've had. So I'm wondering, what's the difference in what you're offering versus this? Is it mostly just that it's enabling the educators to...
It's going to look a little bit like, it'll spell it out for you a little bit more. Like it'll say like you have 10 electives, you don't have the core. And then you can also go into their system and say, okay, I need a core course, and you can get a listing. It's a little bit more user friendly from the licensee perspective. But yes, initially we started down this road because of all the options that they allow for providers. Just, you know, to give you kind of an overview, we have one staff member that probably spends like close to 2 hours a day taking in all the rosters, looking at them, and then sending them to our IT department. And then that IT person probably spends close to an hour manipulating all of them and then putting them in the system. This is going to take out all of that.
It takes out two places where something could go wrong, it sounds like to me.
Yes. And as the provider, they can still basically use it the same way, but they'll know immediately, okay, Marcia is different in their system than she is in our system. Like, for instance, that licensee today, she's in our system probably as Lorraine Gabrielle Hansen. And that kind of thing creates a lot of issues for us, because with your provider, maybe she's just Gabrielle, but if they don't have it exactly right as it is in our system, that automatically bounces their CE back. And then that creates additional where we have to go back to them and say, this line did not upload. So it'll be immediate. They'll immediately know Gabrielle did not upload, and then they can look into it and they can actually manually add her just as an individual licensee.
And so you're going to be working off of email lists of the licensees to give them expiring emails. How will you be able to make sure you have up-to-date current email list?
Well, we'll get those email addresses in the licensee file that we're receiving from you guys. And then the licensed professional, when they create their account in CE Broker, that's the one piece of information that we require is their email address.
Okay.
That still is going to only be as accurate as they update it. So.
And you do not share these email addresses with any other. Do you have any other companies that are within CE Broker? Or is it just one standalone company?
We have a sister company called EverCheck, but they track continuing education and license status verification for health professionals. I think we might have one realtor in South Carolina that uses it, just for the people that work for them. But CE Broker is really standalone.
So you don't share the information, the email addresses with anyone. Okay. And so the updating part, this last part that we were talking about, I don't think I got that clear. So currently, providers have 10 days to send in their rosters. So how will they still have that 10 days?
They will still have that 10 days. I mentioned that just because I think it was on one of your slides, the little badge, that 24-hour badge. It's going to hold providers a little bit more accountable. A lot of times, and I'm not saying everyone is this way, but we kind of get in this like hamster wheel of the licensees, like, I took the education, and we're like, well, the provider hasn't submitted it to us. And then they're like, well, I expire tomorrow. And, we kind of get this back and forth of, well, the provider technically has 10 days. That's why the rules say you need to do all education. I think it says 60 or 90.
Is that 10 days a rule or statute?
Rule. And that rule is it allows the providers 10 days from the date of course completion to submit the proof to TREC.
That's something that we could discuss if maybe 10 days is too long, especially for people who take a class the day before they, expire.
Well, I think that this could essentially work it out in a
nice way.
In a nice, fair market way where the licensee can look and say, I'm not going to take, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys even kind of track their average submittal.
Right. So educational providers, when they log into their provider account, right on their dashboard, it tells them their average number of days to report. So
and the licensee can see that.
Right.
So the licensee, you as the licensee can say, oh my goodness, I'm expiring, next week. And you can go to CE Broker and you can filter the providers by those that submit within that 24-hour period. Or you could see, okay, I always take my courses with this provider, but they're not submitting them, on average, they're submitting them 5 days after completion. So it's going to hold them a little bit more accountable. And I think it's going to provide more transparency where hopefully there won't be this kind of hamster wheel of the licensee coming to us and then having to go to the provider and then a lot of, that back and forth.
So is there a plan in place where you'll let all the educators know about this system now?
Yes. So we actually specifically, I wanted Marcia to come and give you guys, because it has been, some time since we initially talked about this, give you guys kind of an overview. But then also I thought it would be great to catch all of the association heads this afternoon. And so she's actually going to present to them at 4:30 to give them, from the standpoint that all of them are providers and then also representing licensees. So give them kind of this same initial. And then I've also been very adamant that we need to have multiple training sessions with the providers, because I know just from our past experiences, when we change something at Trek, it takes some time. So we are going to make sure that everybody has the appropriate training, that there's going to be no
Or the opportunity to take the training.
the opportunity to take the training. But we even actually talked about working with our customer service center too, to go through our full listing, because I know over the last year we've had some issues with PSI, and we've invited all of those providers to the trainings, and a lot of them don't get the invitation. So we want to make sure we're going to call everybody and at least attempt to contact everybody, because I don't want anybody, because this is going to be when it does happen, it will be a transition, and they're not going to be able to go back to the old way. So we want to make sure everybody, so we have plans to call everybody, communicate multiple ways with everybody before this happens.
Smith.
There you go.
There we go. I know you just said that the educational provider has 10 days to submit. Do we have a deadline as Trek of how long once you get that information that it's put in their system?
We don't have a deadline. We typically tell everybody, and it's pretty common knowledge, that it's 24 hours, and they have to submit every day by 11 a.m. So, and those are all, I'm sure you can ask any provider, and they know if I don't submit by 11 a.m., then it's going to be uploaded the next day. Because we get it, like I said, our staff member reviews them quickly, makes sure everything on the surface looks good. They obviously can't check and make sure every license number is correct or every name is correct, but they quickly look at it because it comes in an Excel spreadsheet, and then send it to our IT department. They look at it. So it's kind of a process. And then at the end of the day, our staff member goes through what we call an error report, and that report has everybody's record that was uploaded and then everybody's that wasn't. So right now it's a pretty manual process of our person going through and then reaching back out. Let's just say you submitted a roster and 2 of the names did not get uploaded, of going back to you to say, Marsha did not get uploaded, DJ did not get uploaded, please resubmit those 2. Does that answer your question? Assuming the record is correct. Now, if the record is incorrect, it's going to take longer than 24 hours.
Bagley.
So I'm going to log on to cebroker.com. Is that what it is? And then it's going to have my information on there somehow.
As the licensee, you don't have to log in there at all. You from your perspective, you could just continue doing exactly what you're doing now, completing your education, renewing at core.tn.gov, and there will be a checklist at core.tn.gov, and it'll basically be like a yes or a no as to whether you've done your necessary education. If you get a no, you can then go to CE Broker and see, like, okay, I didn't do the core course. That's typically what we get, is people forget that they are required to do the 6-hour core. So you don't necessarily have to go to CE Broker as licensee, but if you do, there's a lot of options for you to see, okay, this is what I'm missing. And then you can even, it allows you to kind of say, I'm missing the 6-hour core course. These are the providers that are offering it. You want an internet-based course because you want to take it from the comfort of your home and your computer. And so you can quickly find, and you can also, like I said, you can find a provider that is always submitting within 24 hours. But you don't have to. As licensee, you can still renew at core. If you're just somebody that does your education on time and you're good to go and you know everything.
You know I am.
I know you're not. No, I'm just kidding.
So we still have license inquiry, though?
What do you mean by that?
You know, you can go on there and see if somebody's licensed.
You'll still be able to go to your normal, you'll still be able to
Okay.
go to our website and see if somebody is active or suspended or.
Okay.
Another, we have a lot of nuances with real estate that are not carried across, like especially with the 120, and with the grandfathering and with some of those kind of quirky things. And CE Broker is really more equipped to calculate the 120 within 3 years and those sort of things. So those are some other things that we're excited about.
The questions, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, just so if I needed that core class, it's going to give me some options on from your CE Broker website, right?
Right.
And then I click on Joe's core class. And then is there typically a charge for that, I presume? It's free?
Whatever fee the educational provider would charge, yes.
Right.
There's no charge from CE Broker's side.
So then is it sending me on a link kind of to their site, or is it still staying on your site? And then when I pay that fee, do you collect it or do they collect?
Okay.
It gets complicated, it seems, but
It depends on the educational provider.
Mm-hmm.
If they're choosing to use our learning management system, then you'll take the course right on CE Broker. But if they're a provider that's just giving a link, then it'll give you a link directly to the provider's website. So you'll leave CE Broker's website to take the continuing education, pay whatever fee the provider charges on their website, and then those hours will get reported into
back
CE
to you
Broker. Right.
from that provider.
Right.
Okay, I'm good.
So so I'm now wondering if it's free to everybody. How are you making money? Where's your money maker coming from?
Well, we do have a lot of licensed professionals that choose to use our upgraded services.
Okay.
So we have, I don't know, maybe 20%. I don't know the most recent number. And then we just launched our learning management system. So that's another revenue driver for educational providers that choose to utilize it. So that has a fee. But the basic services that CE Broker has always provided are free. Most of the licensed professionals use our free basic account and they never need anything else. It's just a personal preference type of thing.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. So I assume, Ms. Maxwell, that we will have to adopt your recommendation to use CE Broker, or is it already in play?
It's already in play.
So we didn't get to make a decision? Is that what
You
you're saying?
probably made a decision 2 years ago.
It's
Well, that's
better
not-
to get forgiven than permission.
All right. So I'll go to Ms. Mann then for a second, since I didn't get a satisfactory answer there. Let's see. So do you do Kentucky Real Estate Commission?
No, not yet.
Well, let me just walk through a real-life example. So I'm licensed in Kentucky, and I have to have continuing education. And for the last several months, I've been getting an email alert from the Kentucky Real Estate Commission saying, you've got until February 14th to get these 6 hours of credit done. If you had Kentucky, would you be sending those emails out?
Yes, that would
Okay.
be us and not them.
And
sending them.
how many would you send out?
Usually we only send, it depends on when renewals open. We start sending them when renewals open, and we send one every 30 days. And then in the last week, we might send, more frequently. But
That's what
then
I'll ask you
that's
about.
it.
So let's say February 14th is when my license expires. In the last day or two, would I have received an email if you had that state saying you only have 7 more days to go? Okay, good. So I finally get around to signing up with the CE shop, let's say, to take that continuing education. I do it on their site, and I pass all 6 hours.
On the 13th.
On the 12th. Okay. I'm not that last minute person. On the 12th, in theory, CE Shop automatically uploads that credit to the Kentucky Real Estate Commission's website. Is that how quickly it gets posted? As soon as I pass the test?
It's up to CE Shop.
Right. It's
Okay,
up to-
They got
but
10
if they want to
days.
get the badge, they're going to get that thing uploaded.
If they want that 24-hour badge, they're going to immediately upload it.
All right. Now,
Badges.
the other issue I see with licensees all the time is they do the education but forget the renewal fee, or they pay the renewal fee and forget the education. Do you also remind them that, hey, not only do you have to have 6 hours in Kentucky, you've got to pay $85? Is that part of the email?
Well, we do send them a renewal reminder, letting them know your license is due for renewal at such and such a time. It won't include any information about the fee, but it will tell them, hey, your license is due for renewal. So, we have that happen periodically too. People think that all they have to do is make sure all their CE is in CE Broker, and then they're done, and they forget that step, that they have to also renew their license. So we do send reminders for both things. But I think y'all's system
Yeah,
sends
I
one
don't
automatically, too.
foresee our post. We send the postcard 90 days out, and that will say,
You're doing that?
what?
Keep
Yes,
doing that?
yeah, we'll keep doing that.
If their address is correct, they get it, right?
If the firm address is correct,
That's where you send it?
we send it to the firm. Yeah.
Okay. Well, to me, I can just hear the excitement in Caitlin's voice. and I'm glad we've already made a wise decision to approve this sometime in the past.
I'm excited that we're going to get 3 hours back.
And IT can't mess up as much, right? Is that what you said?
No, I didn't say that.
I'm just checking.
I said, you know, we do get billed for, you know, our hours that we use. So I'm not saying we're going to see a substantial return, but we're going to free up some time.
All right. Other questions? Ms. Mann, anything else you want to say? You're going to go to talk to Tennessee Realtors today. Yeah, good. Executive officers, education directors of each
Yes,
association.
we set it up. So we asked that we could speak to them.
Perfect. Anything else? Caitlin, anything else on this topic?
No.
Congratulations on getting that done. It's only been.
Well, it's not done yet, but
when can we tell people it's going to start for real?
well, we're hoping soon. We're
This year, next year?
this year.
Okay.
If it's not this year, you might not see me around.
Oh no.
Well, let's get
I'm
this
just
done.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
Let's get
But
it done.
it's I've had 2 babies since
Yeah.
since we started this
That's
project.
actually correct. The first time I met Caitlin, she was
Pregnant.
babyless. Yeah.
Good deal. Let's take about an 8 or 9 minute break and come back at 10. What time is it? Let's come back at 5 till.
8 or 9. Have you got it down? That
I'll give you 11 minutes. By previous action, this commission decided that there are 44 cases that we're hearing today. I've canvassed commissioners, and these are the cases that are to be pulled. And if there are others, just let me know. But case 2, 11, 21, 35, 38, 40, 42, 43, and 44. Those last 3 are late additions. Okay, with the exception of those cases, is there a motion to accept council's recommendation on the balance of the cases?
so moved.
Motion by Ms. Franks.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bagley. Any other cases anyone who wants pulled before we vote? All right, let's vote. Those in favor of the motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that motion passes unanimously. All right, we're going on to case number 2. And see you here, by the way. Marcia, you pulled this one. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, the only thing that I wanted to ask Dennis about is you have a $500 civil penalty for this advertising violation. And we typically, I've been here 8.5 years, and we typically give $1,000 penalty for that. Is there any reason that you think it should be less?
So I might argue if it's the first offense, typically on advertising, it seems like we do $500. But I'll.
You've been here longer than me.
Well,
If it's first offense and it's just one item, then yeah, it's typically 500.
So is it a billboard?
I believe it's a sign. I don't believe it's a billboard just based on the, well, looking at the dimensions. Yeah, I would say that, well, 21, that could be a billboard. And this was one that I believe was, it didn't come through the normal process. I think that there was maybe an agreed side, they were offered an agreed citation. They didn't accept it, so it goes on a legal report. No, I don't know that anything that would necessarily warrant, $1,000. It could be, certainly it's within the commission's range for this offense, for this rule violation.
So I'm okay with that. If y'all all thinking 500 is what this needs to be?
Yeah, I'm okay with that, but I also pulled this case, and I'll just mention this. It's my belief that anytime we have an advertising violation, we ought to open up a case against the principal broker for failure to supervise. So that was the reason I had that case pulled out.
I think what he was, correct me, I think we automatically do, and I think maybe the principal broker already paid theirs. Is that what I read?
This one I don't know. I know there's another one I've got on here where that happened.
We can double check if there is a complaint. If not, we can administratively open one.
And that's we can vote on council's recommendation, and We'll follow up with the motion about the principal broker. Any further discussion? You're okay with council's recommendation?
Yeah. So I'll make a move that we accept council's recommendation, and in addition that we open a case of failure to supervise against the principal broker if they have not already paid.
Okay. Second anywhere? Second by Ms. Torbett. Discussion. Those in favor of the motion vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes unanimously. We're on to case number 11. Ms. Franks.
Did the complainants in this case get the survey before closing? This was the one that the sign was on the wrong lot.
Right. My recollection, well, it would appear that they would, but I don't know that I could guarantee that they did. I know that the survey was in the complaint. What I don't recall is
you typically get it before the closing.
Right.
And I really have a problem of a sign on a wrong lot. That's as a realtor, that is very deceptive advertising to me, and I mean,
or careless.
And the people thought they were buying the other lot.
Seems like the sign's irrelevant because they bought it sight unseen. They didn't see the sign.
Well, they saw the sign. I mean, if you believe what they put in their complaint, my view was with the location of the sign after everything else would, because this is why I think that they saw the survey prior to closing, was that the sign was, I mean, kind of like what Joe was saying, that it's somewhat, it's not as big a factor. I'll put it that way.
So they didn't have a picture of the lot with a sign sitting in front of it.
I think they visited. I think they physically visited the location and saw the sign.
But it wasn't sight unseen, then, Joe.
It says it. Apparently, the complainants apparently bought the property sight unseen without obtaining a survey. With the paragraph number 2 or 3, that's what it says. The sign's kind of irrelevant if they've never seen the property to start with. They couldn't have gotten confused where the sign was. Now, Marcia's got a point. If they took a picture of the real flat, nice area with the sign on it, and the other part significantly would look.
There's very few. I mean, where'd they find the property? Did they find this on Zillow, MLS? They didn't find it on MLS because they wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't even know that they were represented. So I think they found it likely on some platform like Zillow or. Did they? Right. So yeah, using their own broker. So yeah.
Well, somebody's at fault here. That if I was going to do this and my client was in, say, California, I would probably Facebook. I would not Facebook, but FaceTime them to see it. And these are the property. It goes back to this fence. This is the lot. I think there wasn't the due diligence that was needed by the agent.
Which agent?
It's really more the buyer's agent, not the listing agent. Except the listing agent had the sign on the wrong lot, and to me, that's a violation.
Well, one of the beauties of being a real estate commissioner is, Ms. Franks, that you can make any motion you'd like to at this point. And I'll recognize it.
All right. So I will make a motion that we find the listing agent in violation of advertising violation for advertising on the wrong property. And I also would like to open a complaint against the buyer's agent for lack of skill and care.
So we'll bifurcate that motion. I like that term.
I know you
heard that
do.
one time.
And I guess with that, the first one being the listing agent, give them a $500 then advertising violation.
Okay, let me see if I can get a second to that motion. Okay, it's properly seconded by Ms. Smith. So the motion on the floor that the commission is currently considering is to, if you agree with Ms. Franks and Ms. Smith, you'll vote aye to a motion that would assess a $500 civil penalty for advertising violation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's the motion. Discussion on that motion.
I'm still a little confused about what the problem is, because it says the sign was not the sole cause for confusion in this matter. So it's a lack of a survey that's the cause for confusion? I just can't figure out what exactly is the problem. So if the sign is not the sole cause of confusion, is that really lack of reasonable skill and care, or an advertising or anything, if that wasn't really the problem?
Well, I suppose from the buyer standpoint that if the sign was literally on the wrong track because they were side by side, I believe that's where the confusion lies with them. But the survey, the map that I viewed, it seems to indicate that if you'd looked at that initially, you would have seen that, okay, so the sign's on the wrong track, but we're getting this one over here. Ultimately, they knew what they were buying.
Or they should have.
I don't know why the title company didn't even catch it.
I just feel like the sign is so minor here in this. It could have even been inadvertent, falling down, somebody put it back up. I don't know.
It's the realtor's responsibility, though.
But if you have a survey, is it not your responsibility as a buyer or as the buyer's agent to see what you're buying instead of just thinking you're buying something that you're not buying? It would be very easy to claim that all the time if you say, oh, it's not what I thought I was buying. I thought I was buying this.
So it goes back to my motion in that there still is an advertising violation because the sign was on the wrong land. I mean, thank God we're not talking about houses here, because that could have really gone bad. But one could be a gully and the other one be the pristine rolling with the trees, the giant trees, you know.
Did the respondent address what was the deal with the sign? Did they say, yeah, we had the sign on the wrong piece of property?
Got it up. Because the survey is included in this PDF, it's wanting to blow everything up and then minimize the.
Well, and it says they didn't have the survey. Where did I read that?
It sounds a little like buyer's remorse because they bought something and they didn't see the property. I mean, the way I read it, they didn't see a survey.
Oh, sure.
They've never seen the property. They didn't. I mean, they just mailed the check and said, "I guess I'm getting an acre in Tennessee."
Well, their claim is the respondent fraudulently advertised the subject property, which they did. They didn't say they didn't put it on the wrong lot, did they? Oh.
Well, I can read this without and still maintain the anonymity of the of the parties. This is the respondent's response. As stated in the comment below, it clearly shows that the buyers were aware that the property was not being sold as a whole, yet indeed that the sellers were retaining part of the property as listed both in the description and noted very visibly on the survey.
Large tract, not two different tracts.
Well, it's got to be two different tracts. You can't sell a part of a piece of property. It had to be subdivided before the closing.
Survey clearly shows 3 different right-of-ways, one to each tract being sold. The survey also states very clearly that the land in between the 3 tracts will remain the seller's property. So that's part of the issue, is that the sellers were holding on to this tract in the middle.
Which they had the right to do.
Right.
Might explain the sign.
Excuse me, as stated in a conversation with the buyer's agent, his broker, and myself being the respondent, this property was never viewed by the buyers nor the buyer's agent prior to purchase. Which is
now there you have it. There you have it. Buyer's agent didn't view it. Okay. Now we'll bifurcate.
No, we're bifurcated. But did you want to withdraw your first motion, or do you want to keep it on the floor?
I'm gonna withdraw my motion against the listing agent and keep my motion to file a complaint against the buyer's agent.
Okay, Ms. Smith, are you okay with that withdrawal? So we only have one motion on the floor. Well, we'll take them in 2 parts. Is there a motion to accept council's recommendation on this particular case?
Hold on, because this recommendation
is to dismiss.
To accept
Council's recommendation to close. Yes.
Is there such a motion?
Yes.
Okay, motion by Ms. Franks, seconded by Ms. Smith.
Mm-hmm.
All right, if this motion passes, the complaint we've been hearing will be dismissed per council's recommendation. Those in favor of that motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. That motion passes unanimously. Now Ms. Franks has offered a second motion asking staff or council to open up a complaint against the buyer's agent in this particular case.
For lack of skill and care.
For failure to exercise reasonable skill and care. Seconded by Ms. Torbett. Discussion. Those in favor of that motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for the discussion. Let's go to case 21.
Okay, case number 21. Does anybody else have that besides me?
You're it.
Is where they advertised a 2-bedroom, and it's a 1-bedroom, and so they're saying this was false advertising. Now, we've had this problem before where somebody thinks they've got a 2nd bedroom, and I've learned from Wendell Alexander that some counties in the state of Tennessee do not have building codes. His county did not. And the first time I said this, you have to have a window, you have to have an egress, and you have to have a closet for it to be a bedroom. He says, not in my county. And so I guess the first thing I need to know about this one is, I don't know how you're going to tell me what the county is or if they have building codes, but obviously they took the MLS that the previous person who had listed it used. And so to me, it is false advertising. I don't know if it goes down to the septic only says for 1 bedroom or what. Could you just give me a little more information?
Well, I can tell you that the county probably does not have code, just based on what I recall.
Okay.
Size of the county being probably the primary factor, and just knowing, I know from contractors board, a lot of that we've run into that a lot of times, whether the codes.
Okay.
I would say there is no codes in this county.
Okay. Then we're good. Then I make a motion that we accept council's recommendation for a letter of warning for failure to exercise reasonable skill and care.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Torbett. Discussion. Let's vote. Those in favor of the motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that motion passes unanimously. Next up is number 35. Harsha?
Oh, number 35 is a timeshare. Now, this timeshare, a former employee reported that they were doing licensee work without having a license. I'm wondering, it's very few times that timeshares were able to cut through their contracts to get satisfaction for anyone. But this time it's an employee of this timeshare company that's having them do unlicensed activity. So, let's see, this is 35. So instead of a letter of warning for unlicensed activity, I would like to, do we know who the person is?
No. That was sort of one of the, I was leaning either towards closure on this one or the letter of warning, because we just don't have any information. We wouldn't know, for example, we don't know who the agents would be at this on
You know
site.
who the timeshare company is?
Well, I mean, we do based on the complaint, certainly.
But you don't know who the person who made the complaint is.
We know that as well.
Oh, okay.
And all that, you know, it wasn't anonymous, so we do have that information. I mean,
there's not a specific.
Right.
So if we don't have a person, could we not open a unlicensed activity, or what kind of complaint could we lodge against the timeshare company?
So this is a complaint against the timeshare company.
Oh.
So just looking at the complaint, and I can read you with the timeshare redacted. It says, I know that this company hires and employs new CMAs that do not have their license. So they're just generally giving us information about employees that don't have their license working, but it's difficult to figure out which licensees they're talking about, especially with this timeshare company, due to the amount of agents that they have related.
What's a CMA?
That's a good question.
We had somebody in here that had that, because we've asked that before, but I don't remember what it is. Yeah.
Where is it? Where is that even on?
They said
Not
it's
in
not
our,
on there.
in our stuff. It was in the complaint that she just read.
And if we send in one of our field they could go to the local, I was assuming probably in November when might have been soon. Chance they might be able to come in on one of these sales talks
And the problem is, you've already told me that this is a large company. So how many times a day are they doing this? How many people are they using unlicensed? And what happens when, I can tell you what happens when one of those people get named as unlicensed is we're going to give them $1,000 penalty. So if we can't go after the person, it's really the company's fault that they're instructing their employee to do this unlicensed activity.
Right. I mean, that would be and the complaint is on the company versus any individual. I mean, they do name, I guess, a manager in the complaint, but there's the complaint is against the company.
So if we make a motion, it can't be unlicensed activity because it's a company and they have a license. But it is lack of skill or their supervision, lack of supervision. I mean, they should know that these people have to be licensed.
Right.
I'm just not for giving them a pass when we have to give them a pass all the time. That might not be kosher to say, but that's how I feel.
So the problem, as I see it, is everything in this complaint may be true, but there's nobody in charge. I mean, you can file a complaint against the company. And by the way, I have a question about that after we vote. But there are no specifics, no time frame. There are no managing brokers or supervisory personnel that are doing this. It's hard to. It could just be a disgruntled person on the way out of the door.
Well, and the problem with it too is this: most states in the United States, they have investigators. We do an investigator workshop every year with Arello, and these people do. They're known by their real estate commissions. They'll say we need to send an investigator out. We don't have that luxury of saying send Joe out or somebody out. So, it falls on our legal staff who are attorneys, which to me, that's a high bar for them. I mean, they've got so many cases every month. I mean, how can they go to wherever it is and send in the sales,
We can send it out for investigation.
So, okay, can it be this, that we send it out for we defer this and send it out for investigation? Would that be possible?
And I guess the goal would be to find out who it is that is allowing them to work without.
Yeah, we need some evidence.
We first have to establish. I think we know soon we know that the complaint's accurate. We may know the who. It's just that we don't know if they are in fact unlicensed. So yes, we could send the reg boards as investigators. Guidance that
I think that would be the thing to do.
So is your motion to defer this?
Yeah, I'd like to defer this and send it out to investigators.
Is there a second? Mr. Bagley seconds that motion. Discussion. All right, is this 30 days away, you think, Dennis, or 2 months? What do you think you need on this one?
Probably give it.
Okay, motion to defer for 60 days. Seconded by Joe Bagley. Discussion. Those in favor of the motion vote aye. Those opposed vote no, and that motion passes unanimously. 5 yes, 1 no. Mr. Ferris votes no. Now, here's my question, Caitlin. I guess I learn about timeshares all the time, but a timeshare registration, timeshare exempt, is that license good in perpetuity?
Timeshare exempt is good in the word perpetuity.
An attorney.
And a regular timeshare does expire. And my understanding is the regular timeshare is located in Tennessee, and a timeshare exempt is sometimes located outside of the state, and they do advertise and they host presentations and whatnot in the state.
The difference between a timeshare and a time registration is the headquarters.
That is my understanding, is that, let's just say there's, there's Myrtle Beach, whatever, and they want to advertise in Gatlinburg. My understanding is that they're fully licensed in South Carolina, where the location is, and then when they come to Tennessee, they would like to advertise for purchase of the timeshare in Myrtle Beach. So they host the sales presentation and those types of things in our state, but the actual location of the timeshare being sold is not in Tennessee. That's my understanding. There's timeshare exempt, which you might see I think it's TSRE in our system, and then there's just regular timeshare. And they essentially, the timeshare exempt has a placeholder in our system. So, but they still are required to, if there's any amendments to the public offering statement or, any kind of change, they still have to notify us of that. They just pay for that, what I am calling a placeholder in our system the first time, and then they don't renew after that. And then one that would be located in the state, fully licensed, does renew every couple of years. They can, if they're closing, they would contact us and let us know that they might be doing a wind down or whatever it may be, and we could take them out of the system. But, they're just essentially there without an expiration date.
We got to move on, but the timeshare exempt, do they have any sign requirements or any requirements at all other than to register with the Real Estate Commission?
There's laws and rules that they have to apply.
Oh, well, some for future date. Just,
yeah.
Let's not do it today.
Also, just to clarify, a CMA is a community marketing agent. So it's an internal phrase.
All right, we've handled this, correct?
Yeah.
We're going to hear again in April. Let's go to number 38.
And I'm afraid, Dennis, I have made a bad mistake on number 38. I think I read it, and then today I turned to the next page, and I agree with your recommendation. So,
what is your motion?
So my motion would be that we accept council's new recommendation to reduce the current civil penalty to $500 and open a complaint against the unlicensed property management entity. We do know who the name of the entity is, right? Okay.
We do. In fact, probably when this was originally presented, should have made a recommendation to have opened it against property management.
All right, the motion is to accept council's recommendation for case number 38. Seconded by Ms. Torbett. Discussion. Those in favor of that motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that motion passes unanimously. Number 40, Marcia.
On number 40, it says that they signed an agreed order.
Agreed citation.
Yeah. So I'm not understanding exactly what the problem is since it was signed.
Well, the agreed citation was signed and paid by both the affiliate and the principal broker. The problem where things got lost was the principal broker used her citation that we never got any money. After speaking copies of the checks, got the money.
Okay. Accept council's recommendation to close.
Seconded by Ms. Torbett. Discussion. Those in favor of that motion vote aye. Those opposed, no. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Dennis. Anna, 42, 43, and 44 can all be heard in one discussion, don't you think? All right, you want to give us a little bit of background and tell us what we need to know before we accept or reject your recommendation?
Sure. So this is a case I took over for Pam recently. So what happened was we received a complaint from a licensee that was alleging issues with a principal broker's mismanagement of funds. Once we heard that recommendation, we encouraged the licensee to file a complaint. So we received 3 different complaints for 3 different complainants against one principal broker. At that time, we had a discussion and a request for audit was sent out. The task of the audit, as normal as we're looking at typically, is to make sure that trust funds are being accounted correctly and there's not commingling of funds. We had significant delays working with the respondent and getting information sent back to us. But ultimately, we requested information for the past 3 years, which is the amount of time you're required to keep real estate transaction documents per the statute. We got half of 1 year's transactions, but again, that was just the operating account. So during this process, I was working pretty closely with the auditor, and we found out that we still didn't have the escrow account documents or trustee accounts, so we requested them again. And the first time we got the respondent got a response back from their bank stating that they couldn't find the account. So at that point, the auditor spoke with the bank employee directly and tried different iterations of the respondent's name, the firm name, social security number, birth date, and any of the numbers that we had on hand. And the bank was unable to find any escrow or trustee account related to this individual. There was there was a personal banking account, and when this was written, so as of the end of January, it had a negative balance. So at that point, the respondent had gone past the deadline to reply and provide their documents. And so we reviewed the documents, I drafted this summary and provided it here to you. We could not find an escrow account at all for the respondent's firm at the time. We checked the firm, the number, the bank number that firms have to provide to the commission on their applications. That did not provide any additional results. So at this time, based on the lack of operating account trustee accounts, plus the issues kind of with the complainants, which I can go through pretty quickly too. I recommended revocation because I don't have an escrow account to look at. But essentially the complainants from all of the different complaints are alleging that the respondent either delayed, did not provide their commissions timely, or did not provide their commissions at all. One particular instance, the respondent informed one of their affiliated licensees that they had to take out a personal loan to pay their commission since the money was gone. So that's where we are. Respondent's firm closed. The firm is closed. It closed on October 22nd, 2021. And respondent is now working at another firm where they are not a principal broker. So they transferred to a new firm on November 9th, 2021.
So we have 3 different complaints from 3 different individuals, correct?
Yes.
Not the same. But the respondent is the same person.
Correct.
And were the 3 complainants licensees under this principal broker?
Yes. There was, prior to the firm closing, essentially a mass exodus. They had several licensees, like dozens, leave prior to the firm closing. So,
Smith.
Program and counsel, who is the program? I don't know what that means.
I'm the program. You. Yes.
Okay.
What does that mean? We never heard that term before.
Sorry. So my job is I'm technically program counsel. Dennis and Pam are disciplinary counsel. So they do litigation. I do everything else. But I'm also doing the disciplinary work for this. Yes. But also, I'm the one towards the end, the person that wrote the summary too.
But has the respondent had any remarks about this, or like, hey, here's what was going on? I've paid everybody back.
Well, the respondent, so of the 3 complaints, we got a response from one of them, but that was because the other 2 we just directed to be sent directly to the legal department. So I'm pretty sure it's number 44. No.
Well, number one he changed. It's 41. It's 42. Number two is 43.
Okay, wait, sorry. It's the first complaint in the addendum. So if you go to page 2, you can see the top. The respondent did answer this complaint and stated that they were paid their closing, but it was not on the date that they were expecting. And basically said, since this was from a 2019 transaction, after that time, the complainant was still talking to the respondent, interacting with them socially, and basically stated that this, if this was brought to their attention, it would not have been an issue. But in communications with the auditor, we've been having difficulty getting information at all. So we don't have a complete amount. As I said, we have half of 1 year from the operating account. We did not find any documents from the escrow accounts. We can't even find an account. So the respondent just has not been cooperative in the process.
They have a perception that their license is up for a possible revocation.
I haven't spoken to them recently. No. But I think I'm pretty sure it was communicated to the auditor, like if we tell individuals that if there are findings in your audit, that it is possible that you will face disciplinary action. So that's given on the front end. Typically, from an audit, we don't have a revocation automatically unless it's so egregious. But this one was pretty egregious in the fact that I cannot find escrow accounts for.
And it's not just escrow accounts. She didn't pay commissions
right,
to
and
her
she's
people.
not paying, and she's not paying her.
I mean, you can not have an escrow account, but there's certain standards you got to go by if you're not going to have an escrow account.
They did also state that they had an escrow waiver. No escrow waiver was found on file as well. So based on the information that we have to this point, I feel very confident in my recommendation for revocation based on the very serious and egregious matter that we have here.
They responded to the fact that there's no escrow account, or no?
I think I have not had direct communication with the respondent. Our auditor has. I can check on that, but it's probably another excuse or information. Because,
the auditor would contact them and say, I do not have your escrow account, send me your escrow account.
Right, and I mean, the respondent will receive a final report at the end, probably at the end of this week, that will state as such. So
the problem too is this person has a broker's license, so anybody not knowing this information could today hire her as a principal broker, or him, I don't know who it is, as their principal broker of another company, and we'd be in the same mess with another company.
So I think the chair would like to entertain a motion, and I would recommend, if I were making the motion, to accept council's recommendation, which is what Ms. Torbett.
I will make a motion to accept council's recommendation.
And that's on case
for all three of these cases.
Seconded
by Ms. Franks. So the motion for cases 42, 43, and 44 is to accept council's recommendation. Any further discussion? Let's vote. Everybody in favor of that motion, vote aye.
Aye.
If you're opposed, vote no. And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Anna.
Now, can I just say something about this revocation? So I didn't know where the right time would be to say it, but I think we've got enough time to say it. I got a call this past week from Janet DeChara, and she said, "Where's Caitlin? Caitlin's not in the office." I said she had a baby. I said, "You need to direct your questions to Anna." Because I really didn't want to be involved with her about this, but there supposedly are 4 agents in her area who have been suspended, and they're still practicing real estate. So she thought that she could just call Anna and say, we've got these people who are still out here working, even though the Real Estate Commission has suspended them. But Anna told her, which is correct in my mind too, that she needed to file a complaint. Well, knowing Janet, she didn't want to file a complaint. But she's still concerned about that there are these 4 people that are still that are still out there doing this. So I feel like there's a hole in our system somewhere that I think it's serious enough. If somebody is suspended and they're still working, just like this person, what if they get revoked and they're still out there working? We don't have cops. We don't have direct cops out there looking and reporting. And the only way that we can get something, do anything about these people who are suspended or revoked, is we need for people to file complaints about them. And I know if it was really upsetting to her, because she contacted me, she contacted you.
And me.
And you, okay. So I just think we need to be thinking about, how do we get people? I mean, you can file it anonymously even, but to me it's pretty serious that we've got people out there on suspended license who are still doing real estate.
And there's no way to know.
Did she tell you who the people were? She didn't tell. I didn't want to know who they were.
Right, so I can give you some more context to the conversation. Mr. Char did give me the individuals' names. I did a search for them, and their licenses were suspended at the end of last month, 2022.
Is it emissions insurance?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you have an insurance through the state provider, those insurance policies expired on 1/1/2021, but you're permitted to have another provider at that doesn't have exactly the same expiration date. So we're running suspensions every month. So I also know that Mr. Char spoke to our administrative manager, Rihanna, but I was able to provide her the individuals' names. And I also provided her the link to public search. So if based on public search, when I looked up this person's information, I could see their suspension date, and I can see the status of when it was changed to suspended. So that's not a feature that we previously had under E-Verify. So that was one of my recommendations to Mr. Char for that issue. And I understand her concerns, and I share them too, but it's very difficult for us to track over 40 plus thousand individuals working unlicensed. But
there's over 900 suspended right now when I looked at the director's report.
Yes, and we ran suspensions and revocations recently too. So something that we're always working toward. But I do think that providing a complaint to us would be very helpful in that area, because right now, as I explained to her on the phone, there's not much I can do with the phone call. Just like if I was going to take a phone call, I would need proof of that happened. Just like if we were to submit a complaint, we would need proof of that happening as well. So I know that it's sometimes an onerous process, but it is a very serious matter that I think deserves that kind of attention. That's just kind of what our conversation went.
I think Anna did tell Janet as well. You can file them, and you can file an anonymous complaint. I know people are worried about maybe potential retaliation if they file a complaint under their own name.
And it's not even that. I can tell you this. Realtors are just so busy that they don't have time for all of that. I've called Drake and I've told them, and here you go. Here's the information. Y'all got auditors and investigators. Here you go.
Yeah. I mean, she'd called 3 people, though. So if you can call 3 people, you could probably, the time it takes to file a complaint is probably the same. I don't know why people, I think there is somewhat of a negative connotation with having your name associated with a complaint. But we do send notice to the firm, to their principal broker, and to them at their own address, at their address on file with the commission. So they're getting 3. It's in the mail.
So now that we know there are these 4 people and they are suspended, we still have no proof that they're doing real estate, unless somebody sees them and has evidence, right?
I would think the principal broker would be the gatekeeper in situations like this, would they not?
Are they all at one company?
I didn't check for that. I just checked the name and the license number. But I think there may have been confusion for these particular individuals because it was 1/31/2022 instead of 2021. So when I spoke to her, it was like February 3rd or 4th. So it had only been like 4 days versus a year. But yeah, the principal broker is given that information, and if someone is operating while they're suspended, or when they're suspended, the principal broker gets a matching consent order for failure to supervise.
So when someone is suspended, I mean, is there any way that we could have a rule that says when you're suspended, you send your license back to track, except that people can print out their own, another copy, I guess, these days, can't they, to hang? And you don't hang them on the wall anymore.
They technically have, I think, roughly 30 days without penalty to get the E&O in place. So they're still under, if they were suspended on 1/31/2022, they're still under that 30-day window to get back in compliance. And then after that 30 days is when the penalties start to accrue for the agent and for their principal broker. So, you know, we hold both accountable.
Here's the bottom line, in my opinion. Licensees occasionally want us to be the police, and we're the jury, not the police.
Right.
If they want, they don't like what's going on, they got to tell us in a complaint form. And I don't know how we do anything but answer complaints. You just can't take a phone call from an insider and say, "Okay, I'll get right on that," because we're not set up to do that.
That's why I told her to call Anna.
And that's what Anna told her, I imagine.
And I think if we started doing that, we would become.
Oh, I know.
We would become in the business of filing complaints for everybody.
No. All right, that's good enough.
I've said my say.
Anna, do you want to talk about the legislative update while you have the floor?
Sure, I can do that really. I can do that quickly.
We haven't done that yet.
Yeah. So I think we're very close to the bill deadline, filing deadline. It may be today, it may be tomorrow, next week. I'm not sure. But there are a couple of bills that I wanted the commission to know about. There are 3 specifically to the commission, and then 2 that are department-wide that would impact this commission. And I'll give you guys the house numbers so you can look them up on your own if you want. The first one is HB, as in boy, 1889. And this one would be creating a new exemption for brokers regarding continuing education. So as the statute is written right now, anyone that is licensed prior to January 1st, 2005 does not have to complete continuing education. This bill, as amended, would create another category, allowing anyone that has a real estate broker license in good standing for over 10 years and a minimum of 200 hours of continuing education would not have to complete continuing education.
Who's the sponsor of that?
I don't know. It's not us. It's not from the association. So that is one bill that
just makes me sick right there. I mean, instead of trying to increase the professionalism, I mean, we are the only state in the United States that have grandfathered people, brokers, who don't have to have education. I mean, that shows how much our legislature thinks of education and this profession. It just
I don't think we have reason to believe that that's going to go anywhere. It's just been filed at this point. So these are
we
just
need to find out who filed it.
Right. We've had conversations with the legislative team, the assistant commissioner, about this, and we've raised our concerns personally. So
it's liable to be a licensee in the legislature.
It's possible.
Well,
I'm just letting you know from our stand-up.
Quick understanding was that a constituent reached out to their and they filed it, and we don't have any reason to believe that it's going anywhere. It's just at this point, it's just been filed.
Okay.
Anna?
The next bill is HB 2288. This is about timeshares. So specifically, this would increase the prohibition for timeshares when making certain advertising. So right now, when making an advertising that includes a prediction or implying immediate increases of fees prior to the date of those increases, there's a 60-day mark. It would be, instead of 60, it increases it to 65. So you can't notify anyone until 65 days prior to the change occurring. So that's a smaller timeshare issue. I don't think it will impact the commission very often, just timeshare intervals. The next one is HB 1958. This is a bill from Tennessee Realtors related to continuing education we've been working on. So this bill defines synchronous courses and asynchronous courses, and if passed, would not require synchronous courses to have the Arello certification. So that means a class like that would come to you all for certification instead of Arello.
A synchronous course.
A synchronous course is live at a specific time, and the student and the teacher are only separated by distance. And
the certification would still be required for asynchronous.
Yes.
Which a student can take at any time and
anytime, anywhere. Also, it would remove this one portion of the statute that requires, this is for specific distance education, that requires one student interaction per 5 hours for a course related to the principles of real estate course. So that's, I think, a pre-licensing course that they would take. The next two are related to open meetings. So the first one is HB 2864. So this bill would permit members of governing bodies, which you are, to attend by electronic means of communication. Each member would be required to attend 50% of the board's meetings physically in person. If an individual or a member fails to meet that 50% requirement for 2 consecutive years, it would require the chair of the governing body to deem that member's place vacant. So at that point, the governor's office would fill the vacancy, and the person that was deemed vacant cannot fill that seat. The next bill, the last one, is HB 2141. This is called the Board Business Flexibility Act. It's one of the governor's bills. It's also about, it's about open meetings. So this one would require that each governing body of an executive branch, which is you all again, would have to have one meeting per calendar year where the quorum, there's a physical presence quorum. So like that would mean 5 people would have to be here. Otherwise, it allows for individuals on the board to participate via electronic means of communication. Also, this.
Anna, can I ask you?
Yes.
So, in the event that everybody wanted to be present electronically, there still has to be one person that's here. Is that correct?
I don't think so.
So we could all do it by choice.
And that was just saying, yeah, I don't think, Correct. And my understanding of the bill at this time is that you would only have to have one in-person meeting with the full quorum per year.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But this also would directly impact the commission because it would remove the requirement that's in 6213-206C, which requires you all to have a meeting in each grand division. So
Move that.
yes, it would remove that. So that right now, that's a shall. So if that is, I don't know how the conversation, if that's a want of the commission, that'll obviously be a conversation between the commission and the executive director in the department. It doesn't impact that. So right now, we're required to have a physical quorum for every single meeting unless there's an executive order in place. So this one would let it have any kind of combination of meetings, but you have to have that one in-person quorum per year. This provision in your statute that says you must have one meeting in each of the grand divisions a year would be removed. So it's no longer mandatory to have a meeting in West Tennessee, East Tennessee, or Middle Tennessee. Right, so they're a little bit different. We have two different competing bills. So those are the only 5 right now that I have that I think would impact this commission to know about. If there are any additional bills, I'll bring it back to you in March with updates.
Oh, it's a requirement, but is it still even an option to travel to East and West Tennessee?
It doesn't, so it wouldn't address travel. So right now it just says you have to have a meeting. So I think if you wanted to travel, that would be a conversation that you would need to have with the executive director.
So it doesn't say shall or may, either one.
Right, so.
Thank you, Anna.
Welcome.
Caitlin, you want to hit your executive director's report quickly?
Essentially, I don't have any updates for the commission. CE Broker was my big to-do for today. I'm open to any questions. I will let everybody know I'm still technically on maternity leave. I'm just working the commission meetings in a few hours as needed. Obviously, feel free to reach out to me. But if you have just a simple licensing type question, please still refer those to Aaron or Rihanna for the next few months.
So how long are you on maternity leave? Do you know that?
I'm taking the 16 weeks of parental leave.
What's that date? The end date?
I don't know the official date, but I'll still be here for any commission meeting going forward, and then working, as needed. And yeah, Anna, I didn't want to throw Anna under there, but if you have a legal question, she's always available.
I know you may be a little removed, but are you confident the Real Estate Commission is still above water financially?
I'm very confident.
Just checking to make sure. All right.
I wanted to say one thing about we continue to have the percentage of people failing very high. I wanted to say that PSI had a meeting in December. I don't think anyone from Tennessee was there, but they have gone over it. They had like 2 or 3 days where they were going over the national part of the PSI exam and trying to make it, because everybody's having the problem of everybody's failing the national exam. So I did want to let you know that that's being worked on right now. And that was in December.
Okay, yeah, I don't think we were invited.
Maybe not.
But
maybe not. I was invited, but I just couldn't.
Yeah. We used to be invited to that every couple of years.
And they used to come here, and we would spend one day going over our state portion. But the state portion doesn't seem to be a problem in any state. It's just the national part. And I do know that they did find some very weird questions and things that were taken out.
Okay. Good to know.
Okay. Thank you, Caitlin. Let's talk about Arello, and then we'll get to Mr. Thomas.
Okay. So Arello is having their mid-year meeting in Savannah, Georgia, April 6th through the 8th. That's shorter by one day than what we usually do because of a conflict with the hotel. We previously had scheduled Savannah during COVID, and when we had to rewrite the contract with them, that we had to be short one day. So it's April 6th through the 8th. And since I am now past president of Arello, I'm no longer paid for by Arello to travel. So I would like to open up to, who would like to go to Savannah to the Arello meetings, and then also to ask the state if they could help with the travel expenses of the people going. You won't be back from maternity by April, though, will you?
I actually probably will be. So I'll have to see if I can work it out to attend. But
and I know that Ross and Anna are on committees too, so they definitely need to go. But I just thought some of the other commissioners, and especially with it being Savannah, Georgia, it might be.
Definitely going.
Yeah, I have to go. I'm on the executive committee still.
So that's fine. Thank you for all the work you've done that they don't pay you while you're still on the dang executive committee.
Well, actually, wait do you hear this? Actually, one of the things that we just approved this past month in the 2022-23 budget, which begins June 1st, is that all the executive committee travel be paid for. But at this point, I'm not paid for.
What a crap. Fortunately, we're above water financially at the Real Estate Commission at this point. Under normal circumstances, Caitlin, we could get staff, 2 or 3 staff members, and 2 or 3 commissioners.
It's a total of 5, and we actually have to ask for a special allowance for the 5th person.
Came up with that number, and why 5?
The Department of F&A. So it's a statewide. It's not even our department. And in the past, we have sort of had to ask for a special allowance for the 5th person. We've just had to say, we're all on committees because the last couple of years we've elected to send 3 staff members, just because there's a benefit. But it could be 3 commissioners, 2 staff members,
So, commissioners, we don't need to belabor this point. Is there a motion to ask Department of Finance and Administration to allow 5 people to go, including up to 3 staff members and two or more commissioners, depending on how many staff go? Let's get that. Is that motion on the floor? Thank you, Joe. Is there a second? Thanks, Joan. So that motion is on the floor. If you're in favor of the motion, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote no. Now, is there a motion as one of the commissioners to be sent and paid for by the state? Does anybody want to nominate the past president of Arello, Ms. Marcia Franks? Thank you, Joan. Is there a second by Ms. Torbett? Discussion. Those in favor of that motion, vote aye, and that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Now we have at least one more commissioner. Is there anybody that's interested in making that trip on behalf of the citizens of the state of Tennessee? So the first person to tell Caitlin that you'd like to make that trip will fill that second slot, okay?
And we need to let Steve and Jeff and John know too, because Steve really enjoyed when he got to go. So
that's great. But
yeah, you did too.
At the moment, he's down on the Amazon River somewhere, thinking that's more of a priority than being here.
Well, I guess Jeff did go to San Antonio. I was going to say, yeah,
he did.
He did.
Yes.
You were San Antonio.
I was San Antonio.
All right, and in the event that the only 2 staff members can go, the motion includes a 3rd commissioner, but priority to 3 staff members. Okay, so if you're late getting to Caitlin's and Caitlin says somebody's already taken the second slot, you can be on the standby slot. But we're going to rely on you guys doing it individually and not relying on this commission to make that appointment. Okay. All right.
And then the last thing about Arello I wanted to say is Arello's annual meeting will be in Nashville, August 29th through September 2nd. and it's going to be at, what's the hotel with Ruth Chris in the bottom?
The Lowe's, I think.
Yeah, Lowe's. Yeah. That's where it's going to be, August 29th through September 2nd. And I'm hoping that we can have a good turnout from our commission members and our staff to be at those meetings. I just want everybody to put that on your calendar.
I think we had talked about, I was going to try to pull up the calendar. I think we had talked about potentially moving our meetings so that some of our commission would already be here. And I don't remember where we left that.
I think it was brought up, but I don't think it was ever voted on or changed or.
I think it's here. We ought to be able to spend a little more money.
And the other thing too is, are you aware of your hotel has been sold, the one that y'all stay in every month, and get ready for the price to go up?
I know Aaron mentioned that the commission had discussed moving hotels, but I don't know that we knew it had been sold.
Oh, well, we're going to, Aaron, did you want to say anything? You're checking on the Marriott at Vanderbilt for us, right? I can't hear you at all. I can't hear you. All right, and you checked on the Graduate.
Those rooms are about $600, $700 a night.
But
well, there's a government rate available there.
Yes, there is. Great places.
Oh, thank you, Aaron, for your work on that and everything else while Caitlin has been on maternity leave and continues to be. Or it's not maternity leave. What is it called? Parent leave?
I think by law it's called parental leave.
Parental leave, thank you. I'm trying to do everything by law. All right, we've got one more item. It's Mr. Thomas, who was here last month. The commission, do you want to take a quick break before we start on that? Or, Mr. Thomas, how much time do you think you're going to need today? That didn't answer the question, though, did it?
Is he the attorney?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll watch.
Okay. What do you think, Commission? You want to stay here and listen, or do you want to take a quick break and come back?
Real quick break.
Quick break, and we'll get started.
On this one where I'm talking about, it's only 18 acres.
All right, let's get started. So, did you watch last month's meeting?
I did.
So you know who Mr. Thompson is?
I do.
He represents a client who was defrauded by a broker who's no longer a broker, currently in jail. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, he's currently in jail. Mr. Thompson has come before this commission to ask for relief for his client, tapping into some funds from a recovery fund that the Real Estate Commission controls. Recent legislation has allowed us a little bit more flexibility when it comes to that case, those situations. In this particular case, I don't think there's any disagreement between Mr. Thompson and staff's counsel about the facts in the case. Is that correct? Everybody's okay with that, so we don't need to repeat any of that. Last month, Mr. Thompson asked at the time for 4 incidents maximum distribution from the recovery fund, totaling $60,000. At one point, there was a discussion, maybe there was a 5th incident that might deserve reimbursement. Mr. Ferris was one who brought up the 5th, and he's somewhere in the building. So if you're still on course for asking for 5 or thinking 5 is good for your client, we'll wait just a second. But here he comes right now, so we're good. So as we handle this topic this morning, we know what Mr. Thomas's request is, either 4 or 5 separate incidents, each qualifying for up to $15,000. We know the state, or our council, not state because it's not a competition here, does not disagree with the facts. There was a question procedurally that Ms. Matlock had last month when she asked that we defer any decision until this month. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, have you resolved in your own mind or in your in staff's mind what's the right way to go at this point?
I don't think there is an issue here at this point. My understanding is I'm going to leave the amount of transactions, whether you believe it's 4 or 5, up to you. The one outstanding issue is 6213-208H. If you have, does anyone have their green book?
We have a red book.
Or red book?
We're not updated.
6213 what?
208H. So in the green book, it's 25, so it should be around there. And it talks about the commissions shall be subrogated to all of the rights of the judgment creditor and the judgment. So in this part, I would, for this situation, we'll say claimant. That would be Mr. Roger Thomas and his client. So essentially what subrogated means is the commission would switch places. And that's where we are talking about the amount of money that they're attempting to recover versus the money that they attempting to recover in other avenues such as a civil suit versus the amount recovering here. I do think that the way that this section is written in our statute goes against the intent of what the statute is supposed to mean, especially in this kind of circumstance. So essentially, the client is asking for 4 or 5 transactions, which could be $60,000 to $75,000. So essentially, any amount that he received against, like, the Consumer Protection Act, which would be about $2.1 million, that money would be placed in the commissions fund, and then you have the authority to possibly give it back. And I don't think that in these situations, that is not what the intent of the fund is to be. It's intended to have individuals be able to make a claim, not to take $2.1 million.
So you're comfortable advising us we don't have to pay attention to that subrogation language?
Right. I'm comfortable with revising that, and if that's something that the commission wants to talk about in the future to possibly add for a legislative change, we can discuss that too to make that a bit more permanent.
So one thing I learned last month that I didn't know is that anybody that receives funds out of this recovery fund has to repay it.
So not Mr. Thomas or his client. So in this particular instance, Mr. Burchett would have to pay the fund back.
Mr. Thomas said his client would pay it back on a schedule to us.
That's if we were looking at the subjugation portion, correct? Yeah. So that's if we were looking at what we talked about before. But if you look in the statute, it talks about if a claim is brought against a licensee, such as Mr. Burchett, he would have to replace the amount in the real estate education recovery account.
Okay, now entering the conversation is Chief Counsel. That's not quite his title, but Mark Green.
Granddaddy.
Oh, it's Deputy General Counsel.
Not Chief Counsel, but General Counsel. Chief General Counsel.
Deputy General
Deputy
Counsel.
General Counsel.
Okay.
It's I answer to pretty much anything.
Go ahead, General.
Yeah, Anna's correct. The amount does have to be paid back. In a situation where you have a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit, such as Mr. Thomas does on behalf of his clients, the statute says that any recovery from that lawsuit would be subrogated to the commission for payments that have been made on behalf of a wrongdoing licensee. If Mr. Thomas' clients, and a lot of folks are like this, they come in and they may not have a maybe their civil lawsuit, for whatever reason, the money is still owed. It would be owed not by, in the absence of a judgment, it wouldn't be owed by Mr. Thomas's client. It would be owed by Mr. Burchett. So,
so I can keep this simple in my mind. If today we decide there were 5 claims and each one's worth $15,000 maximum to Mr. Thomas's client, should we expect to get that money back?
Well, the statute says if Mr. Thomas's client wins a judgment, you will get that money back. And not only does it say that, it says, in fact, you get the judgment, you stand in place and receive the judgment, and you may give him any amount over the $75,000 or $60,000 that you paid out. And that's where Anna's talking about. We don't think that's the intent of the statute.
So it would come out of his client's $2.1 million.
Correct.
So do we have the authority to say that we only like reimbursement for out?
That's what we're going to discuss. The way the statute is written, it gives the commission the authority, and it's a permissive statute. And so therefore, what I believe Mr. Thomas is going to ask for is for a disbursement based on how many claims you determine are valid, with an agreement that anything beyond that repayment would revert back to his client. Does that make sense, Commissioner?
In the meantime, Mr. Burchett is not on the hook to us for anything, even though he caused the distribution.
He's revoked.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
His civil judgment would go to the client, and then we would, or that portion of his civil judgment would automatically go to.
That would automatically. He would be under an obligation to pay that $60,000 back to us.
They were paying.
They do. They pay it. Burchett is out of. He's out of the line at this point. We pay the money. If Mr. Thomas say he doesn't collect anything and we paid the money, then Burchett owes it.
But if he collects 2.1, it comes out of the 2.1,
right.
Which is kind of crappy too.
To us, and we can choose to not take it out.
Right, but we're going to request an agreement that we anything beyond what we pay would go to Mr. Thomas's client.
Why don't we just change the language?
Well, that's what Anna was talking about, and that's going to take some. Yeah.
Right. So if we're thinking like kind of a situation, what we're looking for would be similar to when we were finally in October able to change the residency requirement. So in the statute, remember it stated you had to be a Tennessee resident in order to be a real estate agent. We didn't enforce that statute because it was unconstitutional. But now what you would be doing is saying we don't want to enforce this portion of the statute, and therefore just like move forward. But if it's something we want to do long term, then that can definitely be requested in the legislative proposal for the commission.
Oh, and Mark or Anna, either one, and I won't get to you, Mr. Thomas. Maybe if we need to, might not need to, but so if a motion passed today that said we find there are 5 incidences worth $15,000 each, and we instruct counsel to enter into an agreement with Mr. Thomas and his client that client, from funds they receive, will pay back the $75,000. But in the meantime, we're not going to ask for all of it. We just want what we paid you. What the fund paid. That's what you're thinking about doing?
Right.
All right.
And when would we give them the money?
Well, that would come from the court, obviously, and
so we don't go ahead now and give them the money now.
No. Well, yes, you give. What he's going to ask is that it not be distributed until we have an agreement in place. So we pay from the fund. His clients receive the money, then he proceeds with his lawsuit.
I have a question. So let's say we agree and we pay the $75,000, and he wins his judgment but can't collect because of bankruptcy or whatever. So at the point where Mr. Burchett is on the hook to pay us back, how do we go about collecting that? Is that to the level we can garnish wages, or is it just he can't ever get? How are we going to enforce that? If the judgment doesn't get paid, how do we enforce that he pays us back?
Well, the amount we wouldn't collect on we would collect on through the state collection procedures, either through the Attorney General or the third party. In this case, it would be the Attorney General. We would ask them to collect at a minimum the amount paid by the amount paid that was paid out of the fund.
And just because he's trying to get 2.1 million doesn't mean he'll get the 2.1 million. What if he only gets 50?
And we get 50.
And we
get the first.
And then Mr. Burchett still owes us 25.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. So, Mr. Thomas, you've been remarkably quiet so far. I'm just trying to understand where we are in the process. Have you heard anything that you don't agree with so far?
Point of clarification, at this point, we are seeking recovery for 5 transactions. To address the Commissioner's question about how do you recover this from Mr. Burchett, as a part of his criminal plea agreement, he paid $300,000 in restitution on December the 3rd. He further agreed to pay $19,500 on the anniversary date of that plea agreement. So come this December 3rd of this year, he will have to make a payment of $19,500. He's set to be released after serving 9 months. If he misses any of those, and he's going to do that for make those payments for 10 years. If he misses any of those payments, his probation is revoked and he automatically goes back to prison. So he's going to be very motivated to make that. Now, as to his ability to make those payments, I cannot make a representation for the commission. But I assure you, under that plea agreement, he will be very motivated to make that each of those payments.
I'm only asking these questions because, unfortunately, we have dealt with the con man personally, and I know how hard this part is. So that's just, I wanted a little more clarity.
Absolutely.
On that.
Absolutely. And then the other point I wanted to just clarify again this month. The only issue that is before the commission is our claim against Michael Burchett. In our civil lawsuit, we are also seeking damages and under Consumer Protection Act, against John Doe, the principal broker, who we have not publicly named at this point. We're seeking against the firm that he was with at the time of the criminal activity, and we're also seeking negligence or perhaps reckless recovery for the reckless conduct of the two title companies. So,
what about the principal broker?
I'm sorry?
What about the principal broker?
We've named him as a defendant, and we'll...
I know, but is there anything in track against the principal broker? Did the principal broker know anything?
We don't have. Okay. At this point, we've done very little discovery due to the fact that Mr. Burchett would only plead the fifth. So, basically, the discovery in the civil action has been stayed in effect until the criminal action was completed, and that happened. So we'll be taking depositions and getting a lot more information, and I would imagine we will name that principal broker at the appropriate time.
Mr. Thomas, if you left today and you were completely successful, would it be that these things happen? The commission said, okay, 5 events times $15,000, and subject to an agreement between Tennessee Department of Commerce and insurance legal staff and yourself. Is that would that be good? Would that be a good day for you?
Absolutely. Yes.
And the 9 months, did he get time served or?
His sentence is for 10 years.
But the 9 months, you said he'd be out 9 months. Did he get credit for how long he's been in jail? I guess I'm getting at, is he going to be able to make that first $19,500 payment?
That was part of the plea agreement between the Williamson County District Attorney and him. It's our understanding, and again, I'm sure we'll delve into this in his deposition, but it's our understanding that he had one or more family members who helped him come up with the funds. So I would imagine with that they probably would be allocating additional, but that's pure speculation on my part at this point.
Hey, Michael.
Sorry. The language that you draft, if he gets money from the broker or an E&O claim or something, is it going to be applicable to us getting that back or only from Mr. Burchett? Understand what I'm saying? If he files
I do understand what you're saying, but we don't have limitations on how we can draft it. So if that wants to be part of the discussion, we can consider it.
Our motion.
Well,
I don't think no, I don't think so. I think maybe I misunderstood. Commissioner Begley, you're talking about the language that we would amend the statute moving forward.
Well, on this particular thing where we're just going to draw up an agreement, are we going to, his civil suit where we're going to try to recover the first, hypothetically, 60 grand from their civil suit, is that a civil suit from all these parties or just Mr. Burchett?
Just Mr. Burchett.
No. What the civil suit is against them all, and Roger, correct me if I'm wrong, they would be jointly and severably liable for the 2.1 million. So
true, but the again, the claims against the title companies and other defendants are not a matter before this. So if our position would be any document that we sign with the state would be limited to recovery, would only pertain to recovery from Mr. Burchett.
And it's my understanding that there's already a process in place for that to happen. It just may take several years if you're getting $19,000 a year. So let's say we do 5 instances for $75,000, and he's paying you $19,000 a year. Does that immediately $15,000 is going to come to us as soon as you get the 19, and then the next time 15?
That is what we proposed at last month's meeting. Yes, that y'all would get that back, and it may be better that we did not come before you in November. You were not ready to. This is a case of first impression under the new law. I think a strong case could be made had we gotten the 300,000. Had we come before you in November, and then we got the 300,000 in December, we probably would have only collected 200. We probably would have had to pay you back at that point. Out of that 300.
Well, I wasn't present at the meeting, but I did watch it, and I'm trying to remember. So I think everybody seemed to be pretty much in agreement on 4 cases, but there was the 5th case. Was the 5th case that there were 2 leases?
No, the 5th case was the first transaction, which I identified in my letter, was simply the execution of the property management agreement. And basically that was a catalyst that led to all the other transactions. My client living in China never would have bought the house to begin with if she didn't have a property manager in place. So that's the one that was questionable. But at this point, given Commissioner Gwynn's comments last month, I think it's clear that we should probably seek all 5 recovery for all 5 transactions.
Let's see if we can make some progress here. All right.
I'd like to make a motion.
Please make a motion, but limited at this point to how many cases you want to.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
I would like to make a motion that we recognize 5 instances of offense
that qualify for
5 instances that qualify for reimbursement from our fund.
Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Mr. Ferris. Discussion on the motion. Let's vote. Those in favor of that motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed vote no. That motion passes unanimously. Now, Stacy, do you want to talk about the amount we want reward per case, award per case?
And the
15,000.
Convoluted.
No, not yet. Let's just get the cases and money out of the way, and then we'll talk about the agreement.
Okay. I would also like to make a motion that we reimburse 15,000 per instance. So for a total of 75,000.
For a second. Ms. Frank seconds that. Any discussion? Those in favor of that motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed no, and that motion passes unanimously. The third component would be the first 2 motions that have passed would be subject to an agreement between Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance Council and Mr. Thompson.
Is this a trifurcated?
No, yeah, it's the third motion. We didn't break one motion at 3, but I'm just trying to keep them simple.
So, I don't know how to phrase my motion. I guess I would like to make a motion that the payment and repayment be through an agreed upon document between our legal counsel and Mr. Thompson.
Perfect. Second, John Smith seconds. Discussion on that. The intent of the motion is that once this meeting is over, and if this motion passes, council and Mr. Thompson will get together to create a document that both parties are happy with and both sign prior to distribution of any funds. Is that simplified?
Can I add my my wish for that would be what we've just already discussed here, that we don't want more than what we're giving out. We would like to receive what we've given out and no more. So however you guys need to phrase that, that for me personally, that's what I would like to see.
You don't want to refund $2,025,000 to anybody. Okay. All right, you've heard the motion. Is there any further discussion? If not, let's vote. Those in favor of that motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed vote no, and that motion passes unanimously. Anything else, Mr. Thompson? I wouldn't.
Thank you very much on behalf of my client.
Mr. Green, anything else? Ms. Matlock?
Oh, yes, one thing. In conjunction with this, did you guys have a chance to look at the form?
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, for future cases. Yeah, it looked good. It had plenty of blanks.
No, right. I just wanted to know if there were any additions, deletions. We're good to go.
Okay.
We'll work it out as we go. Okay, great. Thank you.
Now, Anna, anything else related to the commission meeting that you have for us? Caitlin?
Nothing further. Oh, actually, you know what? I don't know if we want to do this now, but I pulled up the 2022 calendar, and I think the reason that we partially left the Orillo annual, the reason we haven't done anything is because our August meeting is August 10th and 11th, and then our September meeting is currently September 14th and 15th. I think it could potentially make sense to combine those and do it at the end of August, beginning of September, in order to be here. So I don't gather you want to talk about this right
I'm
now.
happy.
Yeah.
So you're saying don't meet in July?
No, I'm saying meet in July. Do not meet in August.
Gotcha.
I mean, we could meet in August, but then we would be back, I think, less than 3 weeks later. And I think when we last discussed this, Marcia, we were curious whether you might have the schedule for Orillo. Could it be something where the commission came in Sunday night, met Monday morning, and then were around for the beginning of the Orillo conference?
Yeah, that first night, the 29th, is the welcome reception.
And
there could be district meetings on that day, but most likely not.
Okay, so is that something the commission would be interested in, is potentially combining the two and meeting that Monday morning?
Yes.
I don't know if there's another gap that we when we discussed it previously, it seems like typically that first day is just the welcome day,
right?
And then the rest of the days are pretty.
The days will be filled with stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so
that's Monday the 29th.
Do you want to make a decision now, or reserve it till next month after you've had time to look?
If everybody wants to look at their calendar and see if and we can send a follow-up reminder to the commission, but look.
We're putting that we're not going to have this meeting or this meeting. Instead, we're going to have this meeting.
Yes.
Give us those dates. That'd be perfect. Anything else?
Nothing further.
Well, I can't tell you how happy I am to see you. I'm thrilled your babies are doing well. You're doing well.
Thank you.
And your staff is doing great. Aaron's been a great contact. Anna's been a great contact. See you, Mark. And we look forward to your full return.
Yes, I'm a little worried y'all might realize y'all don't need me back with how great Anna and Aaron are.
Yes,
Anna and Aaron have each told me something separately different, so don't worry about that. Commissioners, any final comments? Anybody? All right, we're going to adjourn this meeting. Aaron has lunch for us. And what time is it?
11:43.
And we need to be at those of us going to this meeting need to be at a table at 1 o'clock.
Ready to? Okay, 1 o'clock.
And so we need to leave here by what 20 till at the latest.
I would say yes.
Yes.
Okay.
With parking and
20 till 25 till, like that.
Oh, if you valet, 20 minutes is enough. If you've got to park in that parking garage, it's going to take you a while to find a spot.
So we need to eat and run.
I'd say 12:30 to be sure.
12:30 to be sure. Okay. This meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
Everybody.
So who is going?